Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another range report. And as you can see from the very large rifle we have on the workbench today, we're going to be reviewing a DMR, or a designated marksman's rifle. And this is the FN SCAR 20S. And this is the longer version and the DMR version of the SCAR 17S, or the SCAR Heavy. Now this is a US made rifle, and it's a limited edition version in what FN calls the chocolate chip camo. That really is an interesting finish, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when I give you all of the specs of this gun. This particular rifle is chambered in .308, but they also offer it in 6.5 Creedmoor. And for this review, even though it's technically not something that we are talking about and reviewing today, I will also get a chance to use this with a Thunder Beast Magnus suppressor. So hopefully that's really going to add to the shootability of this gun. Now, before we talk about this gun specs and obviously take it to the range, there's a few people that I have to thank that help make these videos possible. First and foremost is the owner of this really awesome rifle. He's a local fan and subscriber. He likes to go by the name D, and he has an amazing collection. So thank you again, D, for all you do for the Texas Gun Vault community. As always, I want to thank my Patreon supporters, because through their monthly donations and support, they help keep the lights on around here, and I could not create this content without them. And if you want to join my Patreon for as little as $1 a month, there's a link in the description below, and you get to see all of these videos early. And as always, I want to thank my primary sponsor, who provides the ammunition for these range reports that makes them financially feasible for me, my good friend Mark from Brownworks. And if you've been watching my channel for any length of time, I know you've heard me talk about Brownworks in every range report that I've made for the past couple of years. And I'm honored to have such an amazing sponsor, not only because he helps the channel out so much, but truly he makes some of the most beautiful custom grips I have ever seen. And I endorse his product. If you have a gun like a Colt 1911, a Browning High Power, a CZ75, or a Beretta 92, just to name a few, and you're looking to upgrade your pistols with something special, cool, and unique, you need to check out Brownworks. Brownworks is a custom grip company making a wide variety of grips for a wide variety of firearms out of a wide variety of exotic woods and materials. Mark can apply custom logos, custom engravings, finish the grips in a wide variety of colors, apply exotic materials like snakeskin and alligator skin, and he also makes his own custom laminate woods. Pretty much anything you can imagine he can create. So I'm gonna put a link to his website in the comment section below, as well as a coupon code for 10% off your first order. And I'm gonna ask you to go over there and check out everything he has to offer. And when you place your first order for a set of custom grips, please tell Mark the Texas Gun Vault sent you. All right, so we got a lot to talk about when it comes to this really cool and interesting rifle. And hopefully when I review it and shoot it, I can do it justice. So let me go ahead and adjust the camera. Let's talk about the specs of this rifle. Let's test out the trigger. Then we'll talk about the things about it that I like and don't like before getting it to the range. So let's start off by talking about the specs of the FN SCAR 20S. This particular version is chambered in 7.62 by 51, otherwise known as .308. It has a 20-inch barrel, which is cold hammer forged and chrome lined, as well as being free floated. It has a 1-in-12 twist rate. Like all FN SCARs, it utilizes a short stroke gas piston system. Its overall length is 41 inches. It weighs 11.6 pounds, so yes, it is heavy. It has an extended monolithic upper, which is much longer than the standard SCAR 17 or the SCAR Heavy. It is finished in a chocolate chip camo, which is a hydrographic, or otherwise known as a hydro dip finish, so it's different than your standard anodization. It comes with a Hogue rubber grip with finger grooves, as well as a precision adjustable stock for length of pull and comb height. The other thing that comes stock on this gun is a Geisley 2-stage match Super Scar trigger. And these are supposed to be really, really nice. So that's the next thing I want to test out. So let me go ahead and get out the Lyman trigger pull weight gauge, and we'll see what this trigger is all about. And as many of you know, Geisley makes some of the nicest triggers for modern sporting rifles in the world, and many people consider them to be one of the most important upgrades you can do. So having this trigger in the gun stock from the factory is probably a very nice option. So I definitely want to test it out. So let's start off by dropping the magazine, ensuring there is no ammunition in it, setting that aside, and then we can turn the gun over and we will safety check it, ensure there is no ammunition in the chamber, and it looks like we are clear. So let's start off by just taking a look at the initial take-up and the reset. Our initial take-up is very short, very light. We come back to a definitive wall, and that trigger breaks very nice. I can tell you it is better than the old stock FN triggers, and very short reset that is tactile and audible. Just a little bit of take up and you're back at that wall. Let me show you that reset one more time. That is very short and very nice, and probably a great trigger for a DMR like this. So let me go ahead and get out the trigger gauge. Let me clear any averages that are in it. And now let's test this trigger out and see how light it is. So for our first pull, we have 3 pounds, 4.8 ounces. That's right in that sweet spot for me when it comes to a gun like this. 3 pounds, 3.3 ounces. Three pounds, 5.5 ounces. Three pounds, 5.1 ounces. And finally, we have 3 pounds, 6.2 ounces, which gives us an average of 3 pounds, 5.0 ounces. That, in my opinion, is a perfect trigger pull weight for a gun like this. Not too light, but it's light enough to make sure you're going to be able to get precision shots. And just pulling that trigger, it honestly has a great feel. So that's what this trigger is all about. So now let me adjust the camera and we'll talk about the things about this gun that I like and don't like. And then finally, we'll get it to the range and see how it shoots. And so as you can see, the trigger in this rifle is really nice, and hopefully that's going to translate into a wonderful shooting experience. Now, as always, before we get this gun to the range, I want to share with you my thoughts on the things that I like and don't like. And I always want to start with the positive first. And the first thing I love about this rifle is that it's not an AR or a AR variant. Now, don't get me wrong. I love ARs, AR-15s and AR-10s. But honestly, sometimes I want to shoot something that's different. And this gun was built from the ground up to be different. And I really feel that that is what makes this gun so special. It's not some type of direct impingement AR that's been modernized. It's something that you can go, wow, it's forward thinking. It's a new design, and I definitely do appreciate that. The next thing I really like about the 20S version of the SCAR is that its purpose is clear. This is not one of those rifles that could be a carbine, it could be this. No, this is a designated marksman's rifle. It is designed for precision shooting. So its philosophy of use is very clear. It's not ambiguous. I do appreciate that. Also, when you hold this rifle, you realize it is built like a tank. It's almost too heavy, but as a DMR, I do like that. This is obviously a high quality, well-built rifle. It's big, it's heavy, it's cumbersome, but for its intended purpose, that might be exactly what this rifle needs. And now the last thing I really like about this gun is the ability for it to be charged on the left-hand side and not just the right-hand side. So you have plenty of different options that FN gives us, and this one is set up to be ambidextrous right now, but I really like to charge these rifles using my non-shooting hand versus my shooting hand. I just find that is more ergonomic. But now let's talk about a couple things about this gun that I don't like. And the first one honestly doesn't affect the function. It's just a personal preference. And that is this receiver and the gun in general is very, very blocky. And for me, that just doesn't give it a good appeal. I don't like the fact that the front and the end of the receiver are at 90-degree angles. The trigger guard is flat. It kind of looks a little bit boring. Now, as I said, some people are going to say that rifle is just a tool. Who cares what it looks like? But I argue as a civilian, and when you're spending this type of money, you need to make sure you buy a rifle that you like the way it looks. Because if you like the way the gun looks, you're going to treasure it more, and you're probably going to go out and shoot and train with it more. And the last thing about this gun I don't like is actually a pretty common complaint, and that is the magazines are proprietary. There are some aftermarket companies that do make magazines for this gun, but these are not standard SR25 mags, so they can get a little bit pricey. I kind of wish that they would have developed this gun around a standardized magazine. So that's the things that I like and don't like about this rifle. So now it's time to take it to the range. And so we're going to start out with this gun being unsuppressed at 25 yards. And yes, this is a 1,000-yard rifle, but I'm only going to have access to a 100-yard range, and I am just an average gun guy. And just because I'm not an expert marksman doesn't mean I'm not allowed to shoot this gun. I could enjoy it. So we're just going to start out at 25 yards unsuppressed, then we'll shoot it suppressed, see if this Thunder Beast suppressor makes any difference whatsoever, and I'll come back here and give you my first thoughts and impressions on how it shoots. So let's go to the range. And that was actually a very unexpected experience with this rifle, mainly because the recoil is so sharp and so fast. I was expecting this large, heavy firearm to recoil relatively soft, and I did not experience that. The other thing about the gun that surprised me was how high-pitched it was, both suppressed and unsuppressed. I was kind of thinking with this Thunder Beast suppressor, we would get more of a thud, but we didn't get that. And yes, this review is not about this suppressor, but it's the overall rifle. It just has a higher pitch, and it's kind of annoying. Not that that's going to be a deal breaker. It's just the sound of the gun. And since I've been reviewing so many suppressors lately, the sound and the pitch of guns has become more predominant in my thinking when it comes to guns. Now, you also notice that I did have one failure to eject because the gun did short stroke. And this is something I need to let you know, is the owner of this rifle D has changed out the gas plug to one that has many more settings than the standard 2 or 3 that the SCAR usually has. And so I am not going to ding this gun with any point deductions because it's not running well. I tried to dial this in where it wasn't short stroking, but pretty much I have it almost wide open. And so the gun is slightly undergassed. And even being undergassed, the rifle is still having that sharp, hard recoil. But there is one thing about the gun I really have to give it credit for, and that is that trigger. I showed you that earlier in this review. It's a really nice trigger, and I think a perfect setup for this gun. All right, so now let's double the distance of this target, go out to 50 yards. Just make sure I'm able to continue to shoot this gun this accurate, and we'll see if I have any more problems with it. So let's go back to the range. And as expected, I'm still getting great accuracy from this gun. Of course, this is a DMR designed for very long distance shooting, and I'm just an average gun guy. So if you came here to watch a review of somebody shooting at 600, 700, or even 1,000 yards, I'm sorry that I disappointed you. But as an average gun guy, I still think guns like this are cool, and I want to create content and reviews for fellow gun enthusiasts that might not be precision long-range shooters, but want to own a gun like this and want to know how it performs at the range in a situation that they might be familiar with. The only other thing that I'm noticing about the performance of this gun that I don't like is that due to the heavier recoil, the target reacquisition is taking me a little bit longer than I would want it to. But my recoil really is my only complaint about this gun so far. All right, so now let's change ammunition. I want to test out a couple of different projectile weights, and we're going to put the target out at 75 yards and once again see if I discover anything else about this gun that I like or don't like, and I'll report back to you. And pretty much I'm getting exactly the same results. All of my rounds are in the 10 circles, so as an average shooter, I'm pretty happy with that. But you also saw that this gun did short stroke once again with different ammunition, but it always seems to be on the last round in the magazine. So maybe that has something to do with it. But once again, I don't think it's the gun. I think it's this gas plug. I wish I would have been able to review this with the stock one, but I'm pretty sure with the stock one, when it's running wide open, we wouldn't have this issue. All right, so now for the last test, I want to set out the target at 100 yards, which is the furthest distance I have available to me. And this time I'm going to put 10 rounds through it and just see what the best group I can get with this really cool rifle is. And this gun is continuing to shoot very consistent for me. I am very impressed with that, and I think a lot of that has to do with this really nice Geisley trigger that I showed you earlier. So as an average shooter and an average gun guy, I am very impressed with this firearm's performance. The only thing that I don't like about it is that sharp and quick recoil. I find that the target reacquisition takes a little bit longer than I would want, and it kind of wears into my shoulder. I've shot many other guns that are DMRs that are chambered in this caliber that shoot a little bit softer. My hypothesis for why it does have the recoil it does is that the bolt carrier in the FN SCAR is kind of large and massive, and when you have that weight reciprocating in the receiver, I think you're going to feel it more in your shoulder. So on my star system, how would I rate the FN SCAR 20S, a DMR version of the SCAR 17 chambered in 308? Well, I'm going to give this gun 3.5 stars out of 5. I'm not going to deduct any points because of the malfunctions I had. Once again, I think that is this aftermarket gas plug. However, I am not a fan of the recoil. If I'm going to have to lug a big, heavy rifle like this to the range or out hunting or out shooting, I want it to be a soft shooting firearm. I definitely feel that there are better shooting guns and better feeling guns in this category that I have shot and reviewed. But if you like the look of the SCAR, if you like the history of the SCAR, well, this might be something you want to take a look at. And as I said earlier in this video, I love the fact that this gun is not disguising what it is. They're not saying this is a defensive carbine that you're going to defend your home with and also be a DMR. No, this is a long-range precision rifle, and so I do appreciate that. It's not hiding what it is. And so there's going to be pros and cons associated with that. But from my personal experience, 3.5 out of 5 stars is the rating that I would give it. I just wish it had a little bit softer recoil. But besides that, It performed very consistent for me. So tell me in the comments section below, what do you think of the FN SCAR? Do you think it is a good design? Do you own one? Have you ever shot one? And tell me, if you have, do your experiences with this weapons platform mirror mine? So, as always, thanks for watching.